Good afternoon. A very cooperative group. I didn't have to say please take your seats. However, I will ask if Abby Mawiney could come forward, and her mom, Cindy, and everybody please stand as we will start our ceremony with the national anthem. Yep. For the members in uniform, Chief McCullough will be taking the salute, and following the national anthem, please remain standing.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' commands. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, our true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Good job. Thank you. I've asked that you please remain standing, and at this time we will ask that you join us in a moment of silence to recognize the recent and tragic death of a fellow officer, Constable John Davidson of Abbotsford, British Columbia. Thank you. You may be seated. For those in uniform, feel free to get comfortable and take off your hats. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Superintendent Brian Ash, and I'll be your MC for today's ceremony. On behalf of Chief Brian McCullough, Deputy Chief Bill Forty, and the Police Services Board Chair, Mr. Bob Gale, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this special ceremony to introduce Deputy Chief Brett Flynn. I would also like to recognize the members of the Police Services Board here with us today, including members Vaughn Stewart, Terry Bonham, Regional Councillor David Barrick, and Regional Chair Alan Caslin. And of course, welcome to all our friends here today, the members of the service, members of our partner agencies, members of the media, and most importantly, the members of the Flynn family. First, let me say that I was honored when the deputy asked me if I would MC today's ceremony and offer some opening remarks. Honored because I've worked side by side with Deputy Flynn in many of the positions he's held with the Niagara Regional Police for the past 27 years. Together as young officers on the road in St. Catharines, the street crime units, the morality unit, and eventually as my boss in both district operations and emergency services. I know him as a good friend, a colleague, a fantastic police officer, and a mentor. As you can see in the program, there's a biography that details the significant areas of work and education that have led Brett Flynn to where he is today. I'm not going to go through and repeat each of those accomplishments, and I will leave the formal comments about his career to Chief McCullough. But I would like to take a moment for a more personal, behind-the-scenes view. Deputy Flynn has always remained well-grounded with his past experience as he's moved up his way in the ranks. We often joke with one another and remind each other of our past experiences to make sure we don't lose sight of where we came from. Remember the challenges that officers face day in and day out. For example, like when he became the superintendent of district operations and for the first time became my boss. I took an opportunity to sneak into his office. I covered up one of his official framed awards sitting on his desk with a big picture of him and the drug team with his hat on backwards, a thick scruffy goatee, and a big smile on his face standing in a huge field of marijuana plants. The good old days. Very recently, we were all working together on the challenging task of preparing the budget of 2018. Hours of deliberation with finance sheets and program reviews spread out in front of us, to the point where sometimes I think I was going cross-eyed. I found an opportunity to lighten the mood and leaned over and asked him, "Hey, remember back in the day when the real tough questions was, do you think I should grow my hair longer or get another earring?" Joking aside, I can assure you that keeping a personal connection with the members of the service, remembering what it's like out there, and focusing on all our well-being is a high priority for Deputy Flynn. Now, as you know, when you move up the ranks in policing, the greetings by members become more formal with each level. There's a lot more of "Good morning, sir," "Hello, deputy," but it wasn't always that way for Deputy Brett Flynn. See, many of us know Deputy Flynn also as Bart or Bartman. And it's one of those nicknames you just can't shake. I don't remember now if it was just because the Simpsons were so prevalent around 1990 when he got hired, or if there was an actual "ay caramba" moment, but this nickname has not gone away. Now, of course, there was also a number of special names that he worked with over the years, members that contributed to his professional development. Names like Mully, Shaggy, Junior, Buddha, Goose, Otis, and Gak, to name a few. And I can't go into why we had all those names. So, on behalf of the many members that you've worked with over the past 27 years, and especially those that have been here since the beginning, I congratulate you on your accomplishment. Very well deserved. But I'll also ask for your forgiveness for those days when, out of habit, we might break decorum and you might get a greeting in the hallway. "Hey, good morning, Bart." Now, I'd like to ask Chair Bob Gale to come forward to the podium to provide some welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Brian. And before I read my prepared speech, I'll go off the agenda a little bit, or off topic a little bit. Understand the family is the most important people here. Where's little Brett? Oh, he's in the back. He is the most important here and that. So wherever little Brett wants to go, if he wants to go out, if he wants to come in, whatever you wish to do. Thank you all for coming. This is the final piece of a command team that I am so proud of our board for putting together. These guys don't have egos. They could have. They all get along. It's perfect. And our relationship is perfect. It can only go down, and through Chief Brian, I hope it never does. That we all get along. They're reasonable people. I can't be more proud than what it is. And I was with, as you know, I was a police officer in the 70s. And I met a person that was on the 80s that retired, I think, from the force mid-2000s. He says, "You have the best command team in the province of Ontario." Now, I know there's other chiefs here and that, and so I can't just flaunt that, but we have the best command team in the province of Ontario. And I started thinking of the people that were there when I was there in the 70s and how they are now. In the 70s, it was the region coming together from different aspects, so whether you should be in a certain position, you were put there just because you might have been the chief of Humberstone or something like that. Then in the 80s, I wasn't a police officer, but talking to these other officers over the time, the one word that comes up all the time is reasonable. And I've said that to Brian, and I've said that to Brett, and I've said that to Bill. And they all get along. So I'm so proud of this, and Brett is our final piece on this. So I thank you all for coming out for this, and I'm so proud of our police board for putting this together. So fellow board members, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Forty, President Frayne and senior officers, President Priest and members of the Niagara Regional Police Association, Reverend Page, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's with great pleasure that I'm here today to introduce on behalf of the Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Services Board the appointment of Brett Flynn as our newest Deputy Chief of Police. Deputy Chief Flynn was formally appointed to this position on September 28th. This decision was unanimously made, and I say unanimously made, they all were, by the board because Deputy Chief Flynn has consistently demonstrated success through his dedication and strong work ethic. He is highly motivated, forward-thinking law enforcement professional who brings creativity and enthusiasm to the job. His contributions will be invaluable as we continue to work on transforming the police service to address the needs of the members and better serve our communities. I'll go off topic a little bit more. When we were interviewing for Deputy Chief, it was so close between Bill Forty and Brett. I was worried I'd lose Brett. And I think I went out of my way to talk to Brett and Brian, and I was so worried we would lose Brett. We all were, because I just come back and say we're so proud of having them here. So we're all very excited about working with him as our new Deputy Chief, and he begins his new role with the full confidence of the board and the Chief of Police. His background speaks for itself. Following his promotion to a senior leadership role in 2011, Deputy Chief Flynn was selected to manage the labor relations portfolio and was responsible for career development, training and recruiting units, as well as oversight of the uniform annual promotional process. As an inspector in one district, St. Catharines, he was responsible for the largest district command area, and following his promotion to superintendent in 2015, Deputy Chief Flynn assumed responsibilities for district operations, providing frontline uniform and investigative services to all of Niagara's municipalities. Succeeding that, he served as Superintendent of Emergency Services and Investigative Support Services, leading the members of 21 centralized investigative and emergency response units. Throughout his career, he has accumulated a wealth of experience and demonstrated that he is a great fit for the Deputy Chief of Police position. He is well respected and serves with the highest degree of professionalism and compassion. I think it is also important to emphasize that in the view of the board, Deputy Chief Flynn's appointment represents the final move in putting an extremely important team in place, our executive command team. They form a solid foundation and will work together to increase operational efficiency, leverage technological developments, and modernize the delivery of policing in Niagara. To Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Forty, and now Deputy Chief Flynn, you have our support, our confidence, and our commitment to work with you to the betterment of our members and to the betterment of every resident in our Niagara region. I'm excited about what we can accomplish by working together, and if I could, on a personal note, Deputy, this is a day you should always remember with great pride, as it is a celebration of your achievement and achievement of that ambition. Today is a milestone in your life and that of your family. Your wife, Colleen, children, Kylie, and her husband, Brendan. Kylie, come on up here. I do this all the time. Oh, you're bringing your sisters. So, okay, Kylie and her husband, Brendan, and their son, Brett. Emily and her husband, Josh, and their daughter, Isabel. Kathleen and Bridget. Mother and father, Judy and Mickey Flynn. Mother and father-in-law, John and Erna Muini. And many other extended family members who have come here to help you celebrate. After you, madam.
I only have one. Good afternoon, members of the board, Chief McCullough, Deputy Chief Forty, members of the service, distinguished guests, family, and friends. Standing up in front of you today are the four extremely proud daughters of Brett Flynn, son, husband, father, granddad, and your new Deputy Chief. Those who know our dad, whether it be as Brett, Sir, or Bart, know that he is an extremely humble man and is quick to dismiss any praise. Well, that's going to be difficult now. We are grateful for this opportunity to formally acknowledge the dedication he has shown to policing and providing a safe community. Throughout the many titles he has held, he has shown a strong desire and passion to better himself and those around him. Our dad's career has been a great demonstration of this dedication to serve. The long hours, the hard work, and commitment to self-improvement through his courses, special training, and higher education, all of these have been major contributions to his success within this organization. His lead by example style of leadership was well established even prior to his formal educational accomplishments. This role will be instrumental in his ability to continue to benefit this service. 27 years ago, our dad began his career with this police force, and we've had the privilege of watching this intelligent, hardworking, and dedicated man commit himself to making a positive impact in this community. As a constable, a detective, a sergeant, a staff sergeant, an inspector, and superintendent, the passion for his work in every role has been obvious, especially when observing his desire to better himself and better those around him. Dad, your passion for always striving to do the best for those around you is infectious and has been evident in the career paths we have chosen as nurses, teachers, and potential future investigators. And I'm sure it has had an effect on those who have the opportunity to work with you. I am honored to be up here today, speaking on behalf of your daughters to say how proud of you we are and how wonderful it is to see all of your hard work recognized. You have always been a great provider for our family, hardworking and dedicated to us. We have always looked up to you, and we are certain that although we are quite biased, this force will also benefit from your positive qualities based on all of the nice things everyone has said to you and all the congratulatory calls, messages, and emails you've received. We wish you nothing but the best and all your success in this new role. Dad, today we celebrate you, your accomplishments, we show you how proud we are, and we reflect on your adventures on policing over the years. We also recognize the sacrifices you have made, the occasional rushed Christmas mornings, the late nights and really early mornings, and sometimes even giving up your spot on a holiday in order to honor your commitments. However, you have somehow managed to ensure that you are there for us in every single capacity. We have never felt shortchanged of your time and love. Looking into the crowds of people at our school concerts, our graduations, our weddings, we fondly remember seeing you out there most of the time with a tear or two in your eyes. And today it's our turn to do the same. Looking forward, we are excited to see what all this hard work and abilities will build on this wonderful service. The NRPS community and your family are very lucky to have the focus and drive that you bring to the table. We may not know the details of the calls you have attended, the investigations you have led, the teams you have supervised, or the directions you have provided for the service at key moments, but we do know your ability to inspire others and infect them with that same drive. We know this will continue to serve you well in the role. We love you, Deputy Dad. And know that your parents, your wife, your daughters, your grandchildren, and those who care for you are extremely proud of all that you do. Congratulations.
So as an added bonus, Mickey, come on up. Mickey is Brett's father, and Mickey wanted to say something.
Kylie told me she never prepared for this. I think she's telling her granddad a fib. Actually, my name is Mick Flynn, Deputy Chief Brett Flynn's dad. I think that'll be my new title. Actually, I just wanted to mention how proud his mom and I are of him and his success. We're happy to see so many people here to celebrate his day. Thank you. Short and sweet.
No more speakers but me right now. Thank you for that. There is no doubt that you will continue to show the drive and commitment, the dedication and desire to provide the highest quality of service that has brought you here today. You have proven that you are ready to accept the great responsibility that comes with being Deputy Chief of Police. I know you will add to the leadership we need to meet the challenges facing us today. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, and I can't stress that enough, you did a great job, guys. And on behalf of the entire community, thank you for accepting this assignment, and our warmest congratulations on a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gale. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Chief Brian McCullough to offer some welcoming comments.
Thanks very much, Brian. That's a tough act to follow. Good afternoon, Chair Gale, Deputy Chief Flynn, Police Service Board members, Deputy Chief Forty, dignitaries, senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends. I'm extremely honored to be able to provide some opening remarks regarding the appointment of Deputy Chief Brett Flynn. To put it mildly, I'm extremely pleased by the board's decision to promote Brett to the role of Deputy Chief. I honestly couldn't have handpicked anybody within the organization that would have done as good a job as Brett. Brett is a hardworking, dedicated, and proven leader within the service with exceptional operational, administrative, and managerial experience who has established the highest level of credibility within the service. In preparing for today's ceremony, I had the pleasure of reviewing Brett's personnel file. And as you'll see, I handpicked the comments. I was very, very careful to do so. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone in this room that Brett was successful in being promoted to Deputy Chief. The following are just a sample of some of the comments highlighted in some of the more recent performance reviews that highlight Brett's character. Brett is a highly motivated supervisor who leads by example and who possesses a diverse skill set of operational leadership and administrative expertise. Brett has great ability to communicate both verbally and in writing. Brett has credibility with his subordinates, peers, and senior staff, and has gained the trust and commitment of all to share in his vision. Brett has the ability to influence people to want to work for him and to want to achieve organizational goals. He's not afraid of saying no to the status quo or afraid of the challenges associated with leading and implementing change. And the last one, I think, says it all. Brett embraces leadership and the responsibilities that go along with it. In my view, he has the attributes, drive, polish, and support of the organization to rise to the level of chief. The comments that have been highlighted only represent a small sample of the many characteristics, skills, and personal attributes that will position Deputy Chief Flynn to achieve success in this new role. As Chief, I consider myself to be extremely fortunate to have Brett as one of my deputies. I believe that his skill set, experience, humility, his ability to motivate and inspire followers, his common sense approach, and his sense of humor will greatly assist me in leading the organization through a very challenging but exciting time in our history. As we know, police services all across Ontario, for that matter, and right across Canada, are undergoing a period of extraordinary change. The province of Ontario has recently introduced new legislation, the Safer Ontario Act, which will replace the existing Police Services Act. With regulations yet to be developed, the full implementation of this legislation will likely not be known. I'm sorry, I'm getting on board already talking about this new Police Services Act. The full impact of this legislation will not likely be known for many months to follow. The escalating costs associated with public safety has placed increased pressures on police service boards and police leaders to find efficiencies and to deliver public safety to our communities in the most cost-effective manner possible. With that said, we now live in a world where there is an increased threat posed by terrorism that unfortunately we have witnessed play out in Barcelona, London, England, Las Vegas, Texas, and recently in Edmonton. The reality is that as Canadians, we're no longer immune to threats of terrorism, and as a police service, we bear that added burden and responsibility for public safety. Additionally, there are the unprecedented demands placed on police resources to respond to a variety of social issues such as mental health, drug addictions, which further complicate the already challenging task of keeping our communities safe. All of these competing demands and priorities help put into context the landscape for which police leaders find themselves today. That said, I have every confidence in Deputy Chief Flynn's knowledge, his abilities to provide leadership in this ever-changing environment. As the command team, we are incredibly fortunate to have such a dedicated and resilient group of women and men, both civilian and sworn, who assist us each and every day in delivering exceptional policing to our community. Simon Sinek, an accomplished author and scholar on leadership, puts into perspective the good fortune that we as a command team enjoy here in Niagara. It's not the genius at the top giving directions that makes great people. It's great people that make the guy at the top look like a genius. Our dedicated women and men do just that each and every day, and I thank all of our members that are here today for your service to our community. We are extremely fortunate to enjoy a high level of public trust and confidence in our police service, and we can never take this trust and confidence for granted, and I look forward to working with Deputy Flynn and Deputy Forty and all the members of the service as we strive to maintain the public's trust and confidence by continuing to deliver exceptional policing to our community. I found a recent quote from Queen Elizabeth, and I'll do my best to not go into a high-pitched English accent, who I think sums up Brett's leadership style and speaks to the success that he's enjoyed and will continue to enjoy as a leader. I know of no single formula for success, but over the years I've observed that some attributes of leadership are universal and are often about finding ways of encouraging people to combine their efforts, their talents, their insights, their enthusiasm, and their inspiration to work together. So I have every confidence that Deputy Chief Flynn possesses the attributes that Queen Elizabeth speaks of, and that he will continue to motivate and inspire followers to be enthusiastic, to work collaboratively to make our community safer. In closing, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to Brett. I couldn't be happier for you and your family. I look forward to working with you as you embark on the latest chapter, and I'm sure it's not the last chapter of your leadership journey. Finally, I want to thank Colleen and the entire Flynn family for lending Brett to us. I know that there will be many competing demands on his time, and I'm sure that won't come as a surprise to you based on what we've heard in the past. Please know that we are very appreciative of the sacrifices that your entire family has made in the past and will continue to make in the future to allow Brett to pursue his calling here with the Niagara Regional Police Service. Thank you very much. Do you know anything about that? Okay.
That wasn't mentioned. Okay. We'll work it in. Thank you, Chief. And now, with a keynote address, I'd like to invite the man of the hour, Deputy Chief Brett Flynn.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Brian, for the introduction and your kind words. Chair Gale and board members, Chief McCullough and Deputy Chief Forty, Chair Caslin, senior officers and visiting senior officers from other services, Chief Gert, thank you so much, and Superintendent Joe Mariano, who was my classmate in 1990. Appreciate you being here, Joe. It means a lot. Thanks. Acting SOA President, Inspector Pat McCauley, NRPA President, Sergeant Cliff Priest, Reverend Dr. Page, invited guests and elected officials, members of the service, both civilian and sworn, family and friends. I think I've got everybody now. 2.5 weeks ago, the board's executive Director Deb Reed shared today's program with me, I looked through the speaker list and I saw the words keynote address, and I thought briefly, cool, wonder who they got to speak. When I saw who they got, I wasn't nearly as excited. I thought, yeah, I've heard him before. I've become accustomed over the last few years to speaking as the father of the bride, but this deputy gig is new for me, and I hope I can do it justice today. Let me begin by telling you that I am deeply honored and incredibly humbled that each of you took the time to be here today. I've had the great fortune to have been on the receiving end of the collective wisdom of so many of you, and I owe so much to you for your patience and your guidance and your mentoring over the 27 years of my police career, and some of you for much longer. To our board, I thank you for placing your faith in me and for providing me with this opportunity to help lead this service. I've had the opportunity to work with and for Chief McCullough as both his Superintendent of District Operations and then in Emergency and Investigative Services. Prior to that, a good time before that, I sat back-to-back in our one district CIB office with the future Chief of Police, both of us assigned as detective sergeants. I followed Chief McCullough into homicide, and sometime after that, I followed him back to university against my better judgment. I'm proud to have this opportunity to follow his lead again. Chief McCullough is now, as he was then, he is a committed leader. He's passionate about both his work and his family. He is consistent, he is thoughtful, and he is gracious. Thank you, Chief, for your continued mentorship and support, and please know that it is a great honor for me to serve as your deputy. I've been incredibly fortunate throughout my career to work in settings where my managers and co-workers were themselves exceptional leaders and mentors, leaders who helped to guide me as I grew in my role. I can tell you very quickly, Chief Bill Forty has become someone who I consider a mentor. For those of you who haven't yet had the opportunity to meet Deputy Forty, he brings a tremendous amount of policing and leadership experience, and I look forward to working with him in the coming years. I have to be nice. I saw Bill speaking last in today's program, so and his first lesson with me was to be strategic. I joined this police service on July 3rd, 1990, as a 24-year-old father of just 2 girls at the time, and I quickly realized that I had won the career lottery. I loved my job from the day I got in a cruiser. Loved being part of a team, loved the challenges that we faced together, and I loved the idea of being able to help people and stop those who would harm those people. For my position in uniform, I had the opportunity to work in the break and enter unit and begin to hone, or hopefully further hone, my investigative skills. I rode a bicycle in downtown St. Catharines for a year, and I learned the value of connecting with people, with our citizens, and building relationships in the good times, as well as the incredible amount of food that I could eat daily if I rode a bike 80 kilometers every day. I'm not on a bicycle these days. I returned to the detective office in the newly formed street crime unit, and then very proudly became one of the newest members, together with Superintendent Ash and Staff Sergeant McAllister in our newly formed morality unit. A small turning point came for me in the 1990s, the late 1990s, when our family got together at Christmas, and my niece, Madeline, who was very young at the time, was pointing to all the wedding photos that my in-laws proudly had on display in their dining room. Madeline was asked, "Who's that?" And she would reply, "Well, that's Mom and Dad." "And who's that?" And she would say, "That's Uncle Ron and Aunt Sharon." Madeline looked over at a depiction of Jesus on the wall and she stated, "That's Uncle Brett." And I think it's safe to tell you that on Monday I arrived for work without a ponytail for the first time in about 5 years. Just take that quick opportunity to thank Maddie's dad, one of my great friends, and a person I consider a mentor, Inspector Dave Mead, who the tagline has been, we started off as great friends, but now we're just brothers-in-law. Dave's been a great mentor for me for these many years. Looking back at those days, I recognize how focused I was on the jobs that I did. In my mind, what I was doing, what my team was doing, were the most important things that have ever happened in the history of policing. We had a laser focus. We loved what we did, and nothing else matters or mattered. In 2003, I was promoted to sergeant, and I received a lot of feedback, mostly from my friends to the tune of, I did not see that coming. And I said, that's okay, neither did I. It took me some time to adjust in my new role as a leader. And one of the biggest adjustments I had to make personally was recognizing that I was no longer expected to be the guy, to be the one responsible for the big arrest, who wrote the most detailed report that I could or authored difficult search warrants. In fact, I came to realize very quickly that if I continued to be the guy as a supervisor and a leader, then I wasn't doing my job. And so what began then as a personal challenge for me to be promoted to a sergeant has truly turned into a career-long journey where I get so much enjoyment out of seeing the development of others on our job. It is my greatest pleasure to help guide, to mentor, and to support others in their work. Leading and encouraging and helping others to find success and accomplish their goals has given me the greatest thrill of my career. Along the way, I've continued to be influenced by leaders, each of whom cared about the community we serve, and all proud of who they were and what we believed in and what we represented in our communities. And I worked hard to emulate them and to mirror their behaviors. I want to take a moment to thank someone who influenced me profoundly and without whom I would not have experienced all the opportunities that I had. As a detective sergeant in homicide, the most demanding and complex job that to that point I had ever performed, Cliff Sexton challenged me to do more. He supported our unit at every turn. He advocated for us. He modeled the way. Cliff was incredibly persistent when he believed something needed to be done. He saw much more leadership potential in me at that time than I ever saw in myself. And I spent a lot of time wondering, what does this guy want from me? Cliff would stroll into work in the morning in homicide, always smiling, always ready to take on the day with anything that could come. Before the morning, he'd find time to grab a seat close to me and say, you know what? I had a thought in the shower this morning. Cliff's shower thoughts would invariably lead to weeks of longer hours as I struggled to push a project forward. I'd go home and I'd say to Colleen, I wish that guy wouldn't shower so much. But in sharing his thoughts with me and in challenging me to push myself harder at that time, Cliff planted a seed that helped me to have a better idea of what I was capable of, and he challenged me to become a better leader. I also witnessed quickly what he did for our community and for our members, the way he led to and away from work, the way he made others feel, and the way he made me want to be better. Along with other caring and dedicated members of this service, which includes Brian to this day, Cliff helped form the Benevolent Committee, which is, I guess, non-denominational. Sorry, Reverend. It's neither association nor senior officers. It's a group of members a small group of members that come together every year and try and raise money for members and their immediate families who are facing life-threatening illnesses. And I was honored to join that committee as Cliff moved me into the spot upon his retirement. So I thank him for his friendship and mentorship, and I just wanted to share that about the effect somebody can have in somebody else's career. I'm also fortunate to have found support from my peers throughout my career, and I count each member of our leadership team among my friends. We are very lucky to have them. Superintendents Brian Ash and Cindy White support me directly in my current job, and I could not ask for two more capable or respected leaders to help advance our work in operational services. I want to thank my friends Detective Sergeant Kim McAllister and retired Detective Sergeant, did I say Detective Sergeant? I meant Staff Sergeant. And Staff Sergeant Dave Hunter, who's retired, for their friendship, their support, and their guidance over many years. If ever I thought my opinion on an issue was flawless, you both found a way to very quickly ground me, bring me back, and help me to see things from a different angle. Your friendship and support has meant everything to me. To the men and women who serve our community as civilians and sworn members of this police service, please know that you are my heroes. I'm so proud of the work that this organization performs every day in our community. I ask that you continue to be champions in our community. Deputy Forty, at his swearing-in ceremony, recognized the importance of taking care of our members, and I join him in this commitment to ensure you receive the support and leadership you deserve as you serve the citizens of Niagara. I ask that each of you do your best to build positive relationships in our community, and I appreciate that's not always easy. No one ever calls us when they're having a good day. Recently in this room, I had the opportunity to hear a good friend address a group of FBI National Academy graduates about the importance of strong relationships in the community. Toronto Police Staff Superintendent Randy Carter urged each of us to think about our careers in policing, about the best case we ever worked on, the best arrest we ever made, the one thing that makes us feel great about the work that we do in our community. And then Randy asked us if we would have had that memory of someone, a member of the public, hadn't picked up the phone and called us when they saw something that was wrong. People call us because they know that we're the ones that will come and help, the ones who have the knowledge and the resources to help make things right. Our greatest gift for each of us, the reason we have these memories, is because as a profession, we enjoy that public's trust. I want you as members to continue to build on that trust. I wouldn't be in front of you today if it wasn't for the support and encouragement of so many across my career. And through all of this, in the background has been my family. My mom and dad, Mickey and Judy, who taught my sisters and I the value of doing what was right and modeling the way, always supporting others and always putting their own needs last. To Colleen's mom and dad, John and Erna Moini, who welcomed me into their family and have supported us in every imaginable way as we raised our girls, sometimes as both as 12-hour shift workers. So grateful for their support. My 4 daughters, Kylie, Emily, Kathleen, and Bridget, who got me started on this tearful rendition today. I wasn't expecting that, but knowing Chair Gale, I should have expected that. And now my grandchildren and my sons-in-law, who have all added a wonderful dimension to our lives. I thank each of you for your love and support, and I couldn't be more proud of the beautiful and strong women that you've become. Lastly, to Colleen. Both Chief McGuire in 2012 and Chief McCullough just weeks ago recognized that a commitment to policing has often been at the expense of family time for so many of us. You have been my rock and my biggest fan for 32 years. You've been there for me and for our girls through everything. Without you, there is no me. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Deb, just make a note, we should have a box of Kleenex here. At this time, I'd like to call on the Senior Officers Association Acting President, Inspector Pat McCauley, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here today to bring greetings and best wishes on behalf of President Richard Frayne and all of the civilian and sworn members of the Senior Officers Association on this very important and happy occasion. Like many of you, perhaps, I'm thinking about today through the lens and perspective of my past experiences with the deputy. Deputy Flynn and I began our careers a few months apart on different shifts in St. Catharines. In a very short time, he gained a reputation as being what, in the unique world of police lingo, is called a digger. Being a digger is high praise. It's someone who can stir up an arrest or track down a wanted person on a rare quiet night shift. A digger is someone who tackles every call, even the mundane ones, thoroughly and professionally, and who often finds leads to solve cases that others do not see or think of. Our paths next crossed playing Jimmy hockey, which was pickup hockey, played on days off and organized by the late Jim Williams. Jimmy hockey persists to this day and has grown into an organized schedule with several teams. But back in the day, it was a much different animal. It was truly pickup, with teams organized based on simply who showed up. Everyone had 2 colors of jerseys in their bag, depending on which team they got assigned to. The talent level in those teams was extremely diverse, from beginners to players that had played at a pretty high level. I was a newcomer to the game, trying to learn to play goalie and make up for serious deficits in equipment and talent with hard work and positive attitude. Deputy Chief Flynn was a very strong right winger with impressive speed and accuracy. He was a cool and deliberative player, never flustered or emotional. I recently attended Deputy Chief 40 swearing-in ceremony and learned that he had been an OHL left winger drafted into the show by the Hartford Whalers. I recall remarking to Deputy Chief Flynn after the ceremony that the NRPS likely had the best deputy chief winger combination in the province. I might even be able to add the chief, who was a very strong skater with the hardest slap shot in the league, I might say, into that mix. But I really hesitate to do so because, even more important to me, he was that rarest of commodities in Jimmy hockey, a reliable stay-at-home defenseman. Deputy Chief Flynn and I next crossed paths in street crime in St. Catharines. There I appreciated his intellect, work ethic, investigative intuition, but also a sense of humor, his dry wit, and an ability to be a team player. He's a quiet person who puts his head down and did the work and didn't care who got the credit or the headlines. The work and the team was what was important. Most of all, I learned he was a devoted husband and a proud father of 4 girls. As a brand new father at the time, I soaked up lots of advice and wisdom through osmosis. Deputy Flynn continued on to have a very impressive array of postings on the investigative side of the house with ever-increasing responsibility and complexity. Our paths crossed several times, and he always remained the same, quiet but funny, thoughtful and considerate, hardworking, team player, devoted family man. After being promoted to inspector, Deputy Chief Flynn was appointed to the labor relations position. He continues to have the distinction of being the inspector to serve the longest tenure in that position since its inception. I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, as a person who went in to replace Deputy Flynn, that labor relations is an important and interesting position, but also one with a lot of built-in challenges and frustrations. It bodes well for the NRPA and the SOA that the deputy has such extensive experience in dealing with the nuances and processes associated to our respective collective agreements. And I personally look forward to working with him on issues related to our CBA in the coming months. After next taking command of one district, our busiest and largest patrol area, Brett was promoted as superintendent, where he oversaw all frontline policing and district operations, and then emergency investigative services before being promoted to deputy chief. The highest honor of my career was the 16 months I got to serve as the executive officer to Deputy Chief Gary Bolio, who was an extremely effective, proficient, and universally respected police leader in his own right. During that time, I had a front row seat to observe the skills, qualities, and approach that were responsible for his remarkable success and stellar reputation. After thinking through all my experiences with Deputy Flynn, I see a lot of similar qualities. This bodes well for his success in his new position, but more importantly bodes well for the men and women of the service and the communities that we proudly serve in this great region. Because while the context and circumstances have changed over the years, Deputy Flynn remains the same person he's always been. He's confident without being conceited, decisive without being autocratic, politically astute without being political, articulate without being verbose, calm and logical in the crisis, quick to share credit, quick to take responsibility. He possesses a strong work ethic, a strong sense of duty, but an equally strong sense of empathy and compassion. He has a genuine and deep concern for the well-being of all service members and a sincere desire to serve his community. He is, in many ways, and remains a digger. Most importantly, he remains that same devoted family man, so proud of his 4 daughters, and if possible, even more proud of being a grandfather. I truly hope today that Colleen, Emily, Kylie, Kathleen, and Bridget have some sense of how indispensable they've been to his past, current, and future success. Deputy Chief Flynn, congratulations on this significant accomplishment. I know that the citizens and visitors to Niagara will be well served during your tenure as our Deputy Chief. The entire SOA is proud of your accomplishment. We're all with you, and we stand ready to support and work with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pat. At this time, if I could call the Niagara Regional Police Association President, Cliff Priest, to say words on behalf of the NRPA.
Thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Chair Bob Gale, the Police Services Board, and Chief Brian McCullough for inviting me to say a few words today. And I say a few words. They may not be as few as Brett's dad's, but they won't be as long as everybody else. And that's the beauty of coming at the end. Everyone has said such great things about Brett. Obviously, I know him as Bart. We've been worked together for 25 plus years, so I still do call him Bart, as BA said, and he will never change from being Bart. When he was in street crime, it's all been said. He was the ultimate digger. He found every rat that you could look for that was committing crime. And some of the people he worked with back in the day, wow, that's all I can say. Anyway, on to the formal part, and congratulations, Bart. On behalf of myself, CAO Leanne McClay, the Association Board of Directors and staff, and the entire membership of the NRPA, I would like to congratulate Deputy Chief Brett Flynn, I have to catch myself there, on his promotion to the rank of Deputy Chief of the Niagara Regional Police Service. We welcome, and I mean truly welcome, the appointment of Deputy Chief Flynn. Brett is a Niagara Regional Police Officer, and we are happy to see a Deputy Chief that has come up through the ranks of this organisation. As I said, I've known Brett for over 25 years, and we've always had a great relationship. And I intend to continue that great relationship. He's always been very approachable on any issue, especially concerning the welfare of our members. Brett is aware of the history of this outstanding police service, because he's lived it, and the importance of the commitment and dedication that the service members bring to this service in providing excellent police services to both the citizens and visitors of Niagara. Again, Brett has worked in numerous districts, units throughout the service, too many to mention, during his career, and this has allowed him, very importantly, to gain knowledge and insight into how his colleagues and our members work and what support and assistance that they will require to continue to provide outstanding policing services to our citizens and visitors. Brett is very well known and respected by all of our members. And he is personally known to most of them. I think I'd probably only find 4 or 5, and there'd be brand new people that didn't know Brett. Deputy Chief Flynn is joining Chief McCullough and Deputy Chief Bill Fordy at the start of what in the next few years will be significant changes in how policing is conducted in Ontario and what level of police service will be provided to our communities. Our members will be looking to him to lead, guide, mentor and assist them during these times of change. The Association Board and I look forward to working with him over the coming years on our shared common goals of improving working conditions for our members and providing the best possible policing services to the citizens and visitors in Niagara. Once again, on behalf of the Association and all of our members, I want to congratulate Deputy Chief Brett Flynn on his appointment to Deputy Chief of the Niagara Regional Police Service and wish him all the best and every success in his continuing police career in Niagara. Short and sweet. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cliff. And now if I could call on our police chaplain, Reverend Gary Page, to provide the benediction.
Chief McCullough, deputies, members of the Police Services Board, guests. First, I want to congratulate you, Deputy, on your promotion. Many years of dedication have led to this day. 27 years of excellence in policing since joining the NRPS on July 3rd, 1990, as we've heard, have earned you this recognition. From my personal knowledge, which is always at a distance as chaplain here, is that you are a person that I have recognized the board has made a good decision in planting where you are. I recognize the decision and I honor it and reflect on that. Brent's training, policing knowledge, dedication to service, and commitment to unity, responsibility, and loyalty, our slogan, have brought him here and are serving us already well. Some time ago at an NRPS graduation ceremony, Chief Brian made a comment about my hair and his lack of it. Since then, I've given the observation some considerable thought and have noted that among the top officers in our service, there is a general absence of hair or much white like mine. Service there is, as I said, a general absence of hair in this particular case. On searching for a theological answer, which is my way of doing things first, I found the nearest thing that I could to explain it was God giveth and God taketh away. But it didn't really satisfy me. And then in the strangest of spots for a Baptist pastor, I found a quote by Dolly Parton. Now, I admire her for many reasons, especially her voice. And Dolly said that just because the fuzz is gone doesn't mean you're not a peach. So again, I congratulate you, Brett. And also Deputy Forty and Chief McCullough. I'm sorry I missed your promotion ceremony, but I appreciate that I was in the air, high over Canada at the time.
You were there in spirit.
I was indeed. And I appreciate one of the things, as I said, he gave some people hair, but in many cases he gave them brains too. So I appreciate your brains as well. But your leadership is what I respect most and have come to appreciate. And I can see that I didn't realize you were on a diversity committee there for so long. And if you'll pardon me, I'm not trying to be chauvinistic, but I can see that Brett's done his bit to promote women. More than his share. And I appreciate the finance background because this isn't even known to Chief McCullough. And I'm going to ask you to just plug your ears for a moment. But Brent has advocated that the chaplains receive double pay this year. And I really appreciate that move on his part. All volunteers appreciate it with the board. Now, I would like to ask all of you to just stand with me for a moment. For a moment of reflection, especially as pertains to our new deputy. But as we do, I'm mindful that we come from many backgrounds. We have a diverse experience with faith, or the lack of it. All of us draw on something bigger than ourselves, though, to accomplish what we do. Some find it within, and some find it without. So in my way, and I would ask you in yours, to join me together, as I said, for a few moments of reflection, and further with respect to our newest deputy. Our highest power, guide Deputy Brett Flynn as he undertakes his new responsibilities. Help Brett to keep his resolve to not only serve and protect our community, but to continue to serve his office responsibly, with integrity, being unified in purpose, commitment with all members of the service, especially senior executive staff. Help Deputy Flynn and us to pursue excellence in all circumstances, to be fair and unbiased in the performance of his duties in accordance with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, to treat all victims of crime, as he always has done, with compassion and understanding, and to demonstrate and maintain professional standards of conduct, which he sets a standard for all to follow. Continue to keep him approachable and open to all. Help him develop creative solutions to policing concerns through community-oriented policing. May he continue to be an active leader in the Niagara region. Provide for him a professionally satisfying work environment that respects employees' rights as he always has and encourages personal and professional development as he's always exemplified. Further cement our resolve to be supportive, responsible, loyal, and unified in purpose as servants of our community, province, and nation. Preserve our going out and our coming in, keeping us safe as we serve and protect our fellow citizens. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, if I could call Deputy Chief Bill Forty to offer some closing remarks.
Thanks, Brian. Kylie, Deputy Dad, when I wrote your speeches over the weekend, I wasn't sure how you would deliver them, but you guys both pretty much nailed it, so great job. As the final speaker here today, I have the distinct honor of providing some closing remarks for what's truly a special day for Brett, Colleen, the entire Flynn clan, and our service, quite frankly. I won't go through the process of recognizing all our distinguished guests again, because as your final speaker, I fully appreciate that I am the person standing between this particular moment in time and the food and coffee and everything that will follow. So I promise not to disappoint. As you've heard here today, and as many of you have either shared or lived through, Brett has had a remarkable, significant, fulfilling career, and he's completely committed to serving our citizens. He is intelligent. He is in possession of a tremendous work ethic, and he is highly principled as a person and as a leader, which, no surprise to any of you, are all admirable qualities that we look to people that we respect, and we hope that they continue to live those qualities and carry themselves in that manner every day. I've been a police officer, I counted it earlier today, for 10,441 days. In our job, we come to see, and as Brett referenced, a tragedy. Right? We don't get called because someone has done a good deed or a child got an A in their report card. We get called because something bad has happened to somebody, or something has been taken from them, or sometimes somebody has been taken from them. But as police officers, we also get to experience the opposite end of that spectrum. We get to observe the best things in society: kindness, compassion, teamwork, and we get to see tremendous leadership. We get to see Brett Flynn. I've had the privilege to work across the country with many police officers and leaders. But I have to say that I have never met somebody that is more proud of his family than Brett. I love how there is a mutual respect and unconditional love for Brett and for his Colleen and the kids. I love how they come in the office and play on the floor in his office, and I love how they show up at community events. and I love how Brett lights up every time he sees them. It is absolutely awesome. Colleen, you are clearly a very special person, and I would like to recognize you for, and thank you, frankly, for sharing Brett with all of us. You know, Brett touched on the sacrifice that goes with being a committed, caring police officer, thousands of hours time spent away from your home, and then oftentimes when you are there, perhaps not mentally there all the time. So thank you very much on behalf of all of us for sharing Brett with us. We've heard some great leadership quotes today. The chief talked about Simon Sinek. He talked about the Queen. The Reverend talked about Dolly Parton. BA talked about, or sorry, Superintendent Ash talked about Bart Simpson, or Bart, or the Bart Man. So I think keeping with that line of thought, I will close with a comment from Kermit the Frog. And that is, life is like a movie. Write your own ending. So my final words here are to say how welcome Brett has made me feel to this service, and to thank him on a personal note for how he has welcomed me to this part of the world, and to say how fortunate I think I am to work alongside Brett, and how honored I am, and knowing fully how much I'm going to learn from him in the coming years. So, Brett, thank you very much, and those are my final words. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. And unfortunately, there's still a couple things between you and the refreshments, or fortunately. First, if I could ask Chair Bob Gale to come up, as well as Mrs. Flynn for a presentation.
I'm supposed to give you this, but I'm not going to take these out because so Deb has a box. So I'll just leave these here for when it's done.
Thank you very much. And for one last presentation to close out the day, if I could ask Chief McCullough to come forward, as well as Deputy Chief Flynn.
So we have to consummate this relationship. So I have the honor of presenting Brett with this his badge.
Tell him the truth.
I'm glad that this isn't a wedding, because I would have left the ring up in my office. So when you saw me step out for a second, I had to go up and get the badge.
Sorry.
I didn't realize I was telling confession here. But Brett, you've earned the day. Enjoy it with your family. I couldn't be prouder to have you as my deputy, and it's my honor to present you with your badge.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, we're almost there. On behalf of the Chief, members of the Police Services Board, the executive staff, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this afternoon. I'd like to make a special thank you to PSB Executive Director Deb Reed and the Executive Assistant Deb Sahaki for organizing the ceremony. So now, please help yourselves to some light refreshments. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.